Hello, and welcome. Rama Flores streaming live from northeast of Brazil, Casa in Tihuatana, this beautiful day. Right now, I'm inside our house because we are at midday. It's quite hot outside. Um so nice to be here to have to start this new cycle of um, lectures, dialogues, space to connect and share some of the ancient traditions and uh, renewed with the contemporary situations we are living in our world. That's the interesting aspect of what we are trying to do. I'm Rama. I'm part of Kai School, a place, space, and time where we are exploring some of the Andean tradition through movement, through poetry, through healing. And today, I'm quite excited about this subject. We are going to make once a month lecture on different aspects of Andean traditions and how the Andean philosophy could impact in the debates of situations we are living in our societies. Today, we're going to talk about Pachakuti. Pachakuti, it's a word. It's a word in Quechua language, which is language from southern South America, right? But it's related to some of the words I wrote in the descriptions of this lecture. Is related to apocalypse, is related to catastrophe, of disasters, and how it is connected to all these end of the world ideas. Well, I was from childhood very interested in science fiction movies and books. The idea of imagining new types of worlds, new possibilities, like breaking the order of our present order to come to a new order, it was fascinating to me. It fascinates me from childhood. I love science fiction movies. My partner, she can't understand my fascination from it. She likes drama and comedy, but I love science fiction. And science fiction is based on the idea of something that is gonna be at some point, or alternative alternative situations of what should be reality. Obviously, the aspect of disasters and catastrophe is very important. Hello, Eric. Nice to see you. The catastrophes, the disasters. I just remember from my childhood, the day after tomorrow, Armageddon, Deep Impact, that kind of movies that are not very the quality of the screenplay is not too much. The idea is not very complicated, but the intensity is in the threat of the other, and sometimes how we deal with this new world, like Mad Max, for example. Disasters and catastrophes as Twister I think there's a new twister. I would like to watch it. This film is part of my childhood. Well, Jurassic Park is some kind of animal catastrophe mixed with technology. And obviously, speaking about technology, Matrix, Terminator, uh, what else? Many others. Like, for example, not to disaster, but the effect of technology, like Her, this film about AI, which is very clever film. So the thing is, all these movies are all over the place. If you just go to Netflix, you're gonna see many apocalyptic movies, zombie movies, pandemic movies, because it's reflecting some feeling, some perception of the end of times, the end of the world, something that it's seen in crescendo in the last decades. I mean, the idea of the end of the world is not new. It was present all in whole history. The other day I was reading about Hegel, this German philosopher, and he was talking about, for instance, just an example, he was talking about apocalypse and the end, the crisis of society, the end of the world. So we have in mind this imminent end of the world. Actually, there's a metaphoric clock which make us see how close we are to the end of the world. And I checked it. I think it's doomsday clock. And we were in 2010, 2 minutes away of midnight, which is the end of the world. And right now, 2024, we are at 90 seconds to midnight. So we are about to witness the end of the world. So that is not just coming from our imagination or just effect of the movies. Actually, all those movies, I read somewhere that they are in some way socially preparing us to avoid or be aware of the threats of the future. But actually, we are living situations that we can perceive as the end of the world. We lived a social catastrophe, which is not social, a health catastrophe, which was the pandemics. We are living the effects of global warming. We are witnessing very stupid wars in Ukraine and Palestine. We can perceive the how the politics are, for instance, in the US, the elections in the US were so polarized. So there is a feeling of the end of times. World War III was named by Trump in the campaign of the recent election in US. So there's something else. The AI. The AI is like something that is gonna disturb everything. It's already doing it. The other day I was watching this conversation about AI, and they say that the focus of AI is our intimacy. Intimacy. Our intimacy is going to be the aim of AI. So our best friends are coming. Our best friends are going to be our computers and our smartphones. They're not just our advisors. They're going to be our friends and how to say that in English? Confidants. Confidants. I think it's a French word, but I think you understand it. So there's some signs that we are in front of a global catastrophe. Obviously, as well, there are other signs of the end of something, like disturbing threats. Like I read somewhere that there's every day the possibility of bigger weapons, more destructive weapons, could be at the hands of smaller group of people. The big weapons are available for states, right? But now less people could have access to these big, massive, destructive weapons. Especially in the US, it's classical. The people with these, how to say, this kind of rifles, weapons to shoot like a war. So all that is part or is a consequence. I'm just making a very fast analysis of how we live. It's part of the alienation. I studied how to pronounce that word, alienation, because in Spanish is alienación. Alienation and acceleration, like speed up of processes in our societies. The processes are very fast. Our relationships are very fast. The way we eat, the way we sleep, the way we work is fast, and every time is faster. So in that kind of life, the only answer to that, like a defense, is depression, anxiety, precarious work, precarious relationships, precarious dreams, precarious illusions, precarious ideas. All that is guiding us to some kind of humiliation, some kind of resentment, and all that is took over by some, especially right-wing extremists, to create some tribes of people, totalitarian tribes, to make us feel out of this critic danger, or just feeling the paralysis, feeling that impotence of answering to these everyday threats, like everyday threats, just taking pills to avoid to face it, right? So we are in a very paradoxic, contradictory situation. We never have been so abundant as a society, and at the same time, we can't enjoy that abundance. We can't enjoy the present because we don't have past, we don't want to see our past, and we can't see our future because it's out of control. So we can't live the present. So we don't have time. We can't live our time. Obviously, many people can expect to solve the situation in the apocalypse. What is an apocalypse? Is the end of times and the arrival of the messiahs or divine force or new order that brings back some kind of harmony or the promise of a harmony, a never-ending harmony. But obviously, for the people who are not answering to the ethics, morale, and dogma, you go to hell, obviously. This kind of messiah and prophetic ideas are part of the myths of the Andean traditions. For instance, the people I met in Peru for many years, the Quero Nation people, they have a very interesting myth. It's called Incarri Collari. It's a couple of men and women who were brought to heal and recover after a catastrophe brought by the first kind of human beings. Those kinds of human beings were unable to dialogue between them and the divine aspect. So they die in a Unu Pachakuti. That's the name in Quechua language. Unu Pachakuti. That means a catastrophe by waters, like floods, right? So Incarri and Collari brought back people and all the beings harmony. And when they end their work, they find Queros, they found Cusco. And then when they perceive that Spanish are entering, in some stories, when the Spanish arrive or after they finish their work, they come back to the jungle. Because they come from the jungle, they come back to the jungle to wait for this second appearance. Second appearance, maybe you have heard of it. The Christianity has this same metaphor, the second arrival, the second coming, the coming back of Jesus Christ. So they are waiting in this ideal world, golden city of Paititi in the jungle. They're waiting for the right time to come back and bring back harmony. That's the prophecy. A prophecy that just brings balance and harmony, not brings back harmony forever, like the Christianity says. That's the end of times. In the case of the Andean traditions, they just bring back harmony. And that's a very important thing, because in the Christianity, they put an end of time. That's the end of the story. That's the end. In case of the Andean traditions, they have a perception of time as a cycle, as a rhythm. So we naturally should have a crisis, and that crisis, that kind of death, is going to bring back some kind of new order. Actually, the word apocalypse is a very interesting word. It's a very old word coming from the Greeks. And the meaning of it is the action of discovering, the action of revealing something that is hidden, some kind of unknown future, hidden or a secret future, something that is obviously uncontrollable. So apocalypse is just open in the gates of the unknown future. Obviously, doomsday, the end of times, is all around this idea. In Quechua language, if you go to the dictionaries of Quechua language, you go to see what Pachakuti means, and you will see doomsday, and you will see hell. That's very interesting because it's related to the chroniclers, I think. Chroniclers? The first mercenaries, the conquistadors that arrived from Spain, they brought with them the chroniclers, which were the controllers, and they were relating and writing all the findings of the gold, of the silver, or the precious stones. But at the same time, some of them were a bit sensitive enough to realize that it was important to describe the kind of how the people, the Incas, were living, and especially the philosophy and the religion and the politics of this new world. So some of them were priests from Christian traditions. So they had these biases, this mirror to see reality in their own eyes, Christian eyes. So they connected Pachakuti with hell, with doomsday. But actually, what is the meaning of Pachakuti? I've been studying this because it's very interesting. I actually read, this is the word, Pachakuti. I wrote it in the chat. Pachakuti, it's, how to say this in English? A condensed, it's two words condensed in one. Pacha and Kuti. Let's start for the easy one. Kuti, it's a very easy word. It's related to turn over, to flip, to overturn, to invert. So you have this and you have this. You just turn over something. The word Pacha is something else. Pacha is more complex. Pacha is polysemic. It is actually, I've been studying this for many years, and I always find something new. Pacha, it's a Quechua Aymara word. Maybe you have heard of Pachamama, which many people can translate as the Mother Earth. But actually, Pacha is not just Earth. Actually, something more in the root is different. Pacha is made by these little bits, Pa and Cha. Pa comes from the word, Aymara word, Paya, which means two or duality, and Cha, which comes from Chama, which is the word for force, action, and verb. So Pacha, in that sense, is the force of duality, literally the force of duality, or the action of duality, or the verb of duality. Which duality? Well, if you realize everything is dialectic experience, everything is dual, and everything is dual and in some way is playing together. This word, Pacha, is used in many other words, not just Pachakuti, Pachamama, and other words related to time and space. So Pacha is by time and space together. Time and space together. I like to use another word which synthesize this dialogue between space and time, which is existence. So Pacha could be translated as existence or everything, the totality, existence, totality. So Pachakuti, if we combine these two meanings, hello, Barbara. If we combine this Pachakuti, we get the turnover or the overturn or turn over or flip of existence, the flip of totality, or the flip of the world. That's why I translated in a more poetic way in this talk. The world upside down world, like flipping or turning over the world, the existence. So Pachakuti means to turn over. There were an Inca, a king. Well, it's not actually a king. It's a priest. The Inca is a priest, which was named Pachacutec. Pachacutec. And the translation for that is the reformer or the restorer. So in some sense, Pachakuti means to flip over, to invert the existence, but at the same time, it means to recover, reform, restore, or renew something. Well, not something, the existence, the world. There's another use for Pachakuti, which I was so shocked about learning this. Pachakuti, I said, is related to space and time. So at some time, there's a crisis naturally, because in the Andean traditions, they think time in cycles. There's a time of flipping over, like a tipping point when everything changes. A revolution, right? Actually, that's could be a translation for Pachakuti. But the Andean people thought that every Pachakuti is a measure of time. When the Spaniard arrived, they had some stories about the 10th Pachakuti. And every Pachakuti, they realized that measure 500 years. And every inti is the word for sun, and at the same time, inti is a measure of time. One inti is 1,000 years. So inti, 1,000 years, Pachakuti, 500 years. So when the Spaniard arrived, they were about to turn into the 10th Pachakuti. So the story, as they relate and write the narrative of the Inca tradition, has 5,000 years. Before that, they name it as this chaotic time. The humans were where they couldn't have relationship between them and with the divine. So this way of living time is very interesting, living in a cycle time. There's a book of this anthropologist called Mircea Eliade. In English is The Myth of the Eternal Return, I think, maybe. The Myth of the Eternal Return, I think. The idea of this book is to show how the ancient traditions used to live time. It's not because we live, the time is a perception, it's not a real thing. It's a perception. And we are living in a linear time coming from the Jewish and Christian cosmovision. They started this new linear time, and it has an end in the apocalypse. But the older traditions, they used to have this cycle, like a looping time, right? So every time the loop turns, that's Pachakuti. That's a more important word that I found. The best translation for Pachakuti, and you could laugh about it, is catastrophe. What? Catastrophe? Well, catastrophe, as you and me know, it's a word related to despair, disaster, destruction, right? But actually, that word is very ancient, comes from the Greeks, and is related not to disasters, but to the theater. And in a narrative, there's a pivot point, I think, where the story makes a flip. It changes. It brings new elements. It brings some kind of surprise to create or to guide the narrative to the end of the story. I think it's pivot point. Maybe someone that knows what I mean could help me. I think it's pivot point or tipping point, spinning point, something like that. So catastrophe, because catastrophe, right? Kata means lower and younger or smaller, right? Young, especially younger. And strophe means to flip or to turn over. The same thing as kuti, right? So catastrophe is to flip over, to renew. Yeah, tipping point. Catastrophe is something that brings the same meaning of Pachakuti, something that is the tipping point of a narrative. It's a tipping point. It's the flip of the existence or the existent order to bring something new. Obviously, we have a different cosmovision of the Andes, or even the Greeks. We are in a cosmovision focused or not focused. The axis of our dominant cosmovision is me. I mean, not Rama. Me in the sense of every me, myself. It's an individualistic, controlling society, which perceive this linear time, not cyclic time, linear time, and perceive the future as something that is uncontrollable. That's why we deny the future. We don't want to talk about the future. Actually, it's something that is waste of time. We don't want to. We don't want to, because the future bears the apocalypse, bears the dystopy, bears the catastrophe. So that despair, that desperation, that is part of us as societies, brings as a seed the possibility of a new way to face the Pachakuti, to face the apocalypse, to face the catastrophe, the ultimate crisis, which is hope. The word hope for me is very important. Actually, I like the Spanish word. It's called esperanza. It's related to wait, to esperar. Esperar is to wait. But it's a waiting, but not a waiting of resignation. It's a wait, an active wait, a wait where you are open, actively open to dialogue with time. You know, I am quite in love of that word, hope, because in 2012, I had my third daughter, and 2012 was marked by this metaphor of the end of the world. I don't know if you can remember that. 2012 was the year where the Maya prophecy was saying that the end of the world is gonna come, and actually it was very well known by this movie 2012. So this 2012, the end of the world, for me was kind of funny. That's why I named my third daughter with the Quechua name for hope, Suyay. So Suyai was born in 2012. Hope is kind of inspiration to welcome the uncontrollable future. It's active and resonant, like inviting the future. Make us inhabit time in the future. To live the future, to dream about the future, to bring in the word that Barbara just wrote, to have illusions on the future in another sense of that word, to have illusions of future. We need to love and dream about the future. Otherwise, how can we live? We can live the present if we can't live the future, if we can't live the past. In some sense, hope nourishes some kind of utopia, some kind of better world. In that sense, hope is encouragement to face what is uncertain, the quality of uncertainty of the future, the quality of death, actually. The future bears death. I mean, I'm talking about in the personal, the particular perception, the future bears death. We're gonna die. That's the thing. We're gonna die at some moment, at some point. So hope take us out, make us transcend of this I, of this particular person, this individual person, this immanent experience, to make it transcendental through hope, through trust in the future. Obviously, it comes this word faith. We are faithful to what is coming. But this faithful is not resignation, it's active, right? Amadi, thank you for this wisdom, dear Rama. But isn't everything one actually? We die in every moment. That's it. Yes, of course, Barbara. But at the same time, that's the contradictory of the experience of being human beings. We live right now, but inevitably, we live with our past and our future playing game with time. That's time, actually. If we can't live our past and our future, we can't live our present. That's why here and now, for the Andean traditions, which is cyclical time, it's not the same thing that we sometimes see in social networks. Live here and now and forget the past and present. That's completely different from the idea of here and now of the Andean traditions. We need to live here and now because we lived the past and we hope the future. That's the way to inhabit time. We inhabit time. The way to inhabit time is the repetition and the ritual. The ritual is a sacred repetition. So, yes, obviously, to live and to die is something that is happening all the time. This moment, this day is day, but at some point we're gonna die when we go to sleep, and we're gonna have a new possibility. We don't know, but possibly tomorrow we're going to have another opportunity. So to end this conversation, I'm going to bring you two more things, two more ideas, two more inspirations. Actually, there are contradictions. One of them is Yampu Sonko. These are two words in Quechua language that means, well, Sonko, it's easy to translate. It means heart. Sonko is heart. Yampu is more difficult because it has many meanings. It means calm. It means warm. It means soft. It means peaceful. It means patience. It means kind. So kind heart, loving heart, warm heart, patient heart, peaceful heart. All of that is the quality of our attitude to confront this Pachakuti, to confront this uncertain future, uncertain situations, this dangerous crisis. An open heart, a resonant heart, a heart that is willing to dialogue and to find out with the other. I mean, the other is not just people, the other is nature, the other is the divine in the aspect that you can believe. So us, Yampu Sonko is a relational word. It's about relationship. It's how we can come back to intimacy. Sorry, Barbara says, but the past, the future, and this very moment are actually one. Yes, of course. That's how I'm feeling it. But it's impossible to complex in words. It's like, yes. The idea to explain this, you know, in Quechua, they have this very odd word. It's called ñaupa. Ñaupa is related to the past and is related to the consequence of the future, the closest future. Ñaupai is related to what is about to happen. So the past and the future in the same word. That's, you have to have some kind of flexibility in your mind. Obviously, we need to speak that language to realize how the words play with your mind to make you feel that cycle, that unity. The future, the past, and the present in the same ideas, the same language. Obviously, we use the language to try to come out what we feel, right? So when you say one, you're using a word that tries to make us understand what you're feeling. So the Andean tradition used this word, very confusing for us, past, future in the same word. That could make a point in relationship with what you are saying about one or unity. So Yampu Sonko is this attitude of being open to what is coming. The opposite, which is very interesting, I wrote it. No, yes. The other word is Atipakui, which is the opposite of Yampu Sonko. Atipakui is related to power, is related to victory and winner in a battle, is related to violence, the same word, and is related to disgrace. All those meanings for that word. It sounds familiar to individuality, right? It sounds familiar to the kind of society we live, power, winner, violence, and disgrace. Everything. It's just it's just describing the kind of societies we live in. Atipakoi is the completely opposite to Llampusonkoi. Atipakoi merge power and violence in one word. Actually, I found out that there's a German word, I think it's Jewels, I don't know how to say this. Is maybe some of you know German. I think that's the word. Is relate it the same meaning for that word is power and violence together. Well, Atipakoi is just that. The kind of societies we live in a contractions of myself, me, trying to control power, trying to win over others, to become the masters of my slaves. That's the kind of relationship we have. Competition, right? Competition is related to atipakui. And disgrace is the consequence of that kind of behavior. Our societies, following what I'm saying, our societies will end in some kind of disgrace. So, in that sense, Pachakuti or catastrophe in the Greek sense could be something that maybe we need to experience. I'm saying this not in a catastrophic, dramatic sense, but to realize that we are part of a cycle and we're going to come back to some kind of order. Hopefully, that order is going to be focused in us, not in I. It's going to be focused in recovering the relationship with the other, in what other means, everything, everyone. That's very nice that you have a word for that. Okay. So I think it's getting late. I know this subject could take us hours to tell stories and to get into that, this and that. It's a beautiful, very interesting and very actual subject. But I invite you to join us to our next meetings. We're going to have these kind of talks every month. But next Wednesday, we have the Kanchari Andean Yoga Kai practice live in this channel at the same hour. So if you are available and if you want to explore some of these ideas, but not with our minds, but with our body, you can join us next Wednesday at, I think it's 6 p.m. CET time. It's going to be 1 p.m. ET time, 10 a.m. PT time. I think I say it correctly, I think. But I thank you for being there. And I hope you have a very good week, month, if we meet in next month. And thank you for being there. Thank you for your patience, for your interaction. Amal, Barbara, Gemma, Eric, thank you for being there, and see you next time. Thank you. Bye bye.